Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swirsky's Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swirsky's Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swirsky, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swirsky, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swirsky Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are just going to shovel all of the manure that Chicago sports has been dumping on us for the last few weeks. And it's a lot of manure. Alex has he's got one of those Breaking Bad suits on because he does not want to get it on his clothes. I've just got big, tall rubber boots, but I've got big gloves and a giant shovel and some goggles. So we are just shoveling manure, and we're going to go through all of the manure with you. Alex, how are you doing other than the manure?
Oh, I'm just dandy and fine. I actually did not want to watch the first pile of manure that was the Bears game today, so I hung out at Wrigley Field today.
There you go. Was there something going on, or were you just in Wrigleyville?
I just went to go because, this is the first off season in 4 or 5 years where you can actually go to Wrigley Field and enjoy it better than ever with all the new amenities. But the last few years, you go to Wrigley Field in the off season, it was all fenced off because they were doing all the work, the renovations and whatnot. But, this year you can just go and enjoy Gallagher Way, the new shops that they opened in Gallagher Way and in the hotel and across the street. It was just very quiet and peaceful there. It was just kind of nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's been longer than a few years, too, because I remember my daughter just turned 5 a couple weeks ago, and right after she was born, I went down there while she and my wife were taking a nap and I was on paternity leave, and I went down there when they had the Joe press conference, and they were already under construction. They had a big outfield wall taken out, and they just had fencing there. So, yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, that was the very beginning of the renovations to that offseason, that 2014-2015 offseason, because literally, right after the last game was played in the 2014 season, as soon as the last, person cleared out, they started tearing down the old bleachers and got to work.
Yeah, it's funny. If you read the actual story of when they built Wrigley Field, they were something like 5 weeks behind schedule when they built it, and it still only took them 4 months.
Yeah, because I think there was a workers' strike, I believe.
Yeah, but it didn't take them long to build that stadium at all. I mean,
no.
Granted, not all of the amenities that they have now, and but yeah, it was a cool story. Before you were my co-host, I had a guy who wrote a book on the history of Wrigley Field, and he came on the show and chatted for a while. That was a lot of tidbits I did not know.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. You realize the history of Wrigley Field, but very, 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 very little is actually remaining from the original 1914 structure. Very little of it.
Just the urinals.
Pretty much. Pretty much. Because none of the concrete in the seats, that's all been ripped out several times. Obviously, the upper deck wasn't there. None of the outfield was there. And I think it was 1923, they actually sliced the stadium in 3 pieces and moved it apart so they could add more seats. So much of the original part of the grandstand isn't even in its first position.
I'm just picturing somebody with a giant chainsaw.
Well, apparently, after they cut it in half, the way they moved it back was they had the pieces, there were 3 pieces, the center field, the home plate piece, the right field piece, and the left field piece. The right field piece was staying where it was. The middle and left were being pushed back about 60 some feet. And apparently, how they did it was they put it on like a giant roller, and the roller was pulled by a bunch of horses. So I just imagine John Lackey in like some old, like early 1915, like foreman uniform, just going like with his whip, just going, whoosh, whoosh, telling them to get their asses going.
Wait, are you implying that John Lackey and Buttercup are vampires?
Yes.
You just go back through time, and at all time periods, there's always a picture of John Lackey doing something with Buttercup. And you're like, wait a minute, I was in the Civil War, and there at Fort Sumter, the Battle of Fort Sumter, there's Buttercup and John Lackey. That can't be. Be like, oh my goodness. Be like, you know, the Battle of the Bulge. Like, there's John Lackey. Oh man, they're chasing you know, Julius Caesar out, and there's John Lackey. Napoleon on the island of Elba. There's John Lackey and Buttercup.
During the Exodus, the Jewish Exodus of Egypt over 3,000 years ago, you see them all going through the Red Sea, which has been parted, and right next to the pharaohs, they're trying to chase after him. There's just John Lackey in a pharaoh cap and Buttercup.
You're looking at a picture of, you know, a video of Adam and Eve, and there's in the background John Lackey spitting chaw, looking angry at Adam.
Yeah, God's vanishing Adam and Eve, and in the background,
come on, Buttercup, I see when we're not wanted.
We're gonna have all the apples.
Noah and his ark, they're two animals 2 by 2, and he's like, wait, you guys aren't the same animal. Shut up. we're a pair here.
They're all just 2 by 2, and then there's Lackey and Buttercup going up the ramp.
Sir, don't make me spit my chaw.
They're all aboard the ark, and he's just spitting off chaw off the side of the boat.
Oh my goodness. Like, why do you have all those coconuts? I said I'm gonna spit my chaw.
I don't know if there's room for all your chaw. Shut up.
He's just got like an old school like hobo bindle on a stick, and there's nothing in it but empty coconuts and a spittoon.
You got Johnny Appleseed. Right next to Johnny Appleseed is Buttercup and John Lackey, and he's putting tobacco plants everywhere.
Right behind Johnny Appleseed is Johnny Chawseed.
He's just got a spittoon on his head instead of the freaking panhandle.
Like, sir, I'm trying to grow these apples. I'm trying to grow more chaw.
And that's how all the chaw plants ended up next to the apple trees.
Oh, John Lackey. It would be amazing if he came on the show. We just did 2 hours of John Lackey impersonations for John Lackey.
Oh, I know. It was always kind of my dream to like go to a bar in Wrigleyville, do our show live, kind of like how we did it at Peace Pizza that one time. But John Lackey's just sitting there, and we just asked him to come up on the show. I mean, that would have been so cool if that happened. That
would have been like a lifelong dream.
He comes up to us. His spurs are clanking as he walks forward.
He goes to the bar with Buttercup. He rides it up to the bar. He's trained Buttercup that whenever somebody gets into his personal space, she rears back and kicks them, leaves hoof prints on their chest. It was my turn to get a drink. You see the person with like literal stars above their head going, and then they've got a horseshoe imprint in their shirt.
Instead of stars going around their head, it's just like a John Lackey face.
with different phases of chaw face.
Yeah, you got
Early chaw. This is mid chaw. This is getting ready to replace the chaw.
and this is spitting jaw.
And wait, no, instead of stars, it's you just see spittoons going by, going spittoon.
This is what terrible Chicago sports has done to us, folks.
The only good thing about Chicago sports right now is John Lackey and Buttercup.
Yeah. Hey, Anthony Rizzo and Yolmer Sanchez won Gold Gloves.
I did see that. Congratulations. And that poor Yomer's going to lose his job.
Woo!
So should we dive into the manure?
Yeah, I guess. Hold your noses, folks.
The Bears suck. I said it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of suckage, but I'm going to start with the major suckitude. Mitch Trubisky sucks.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how to sugarcoat it anymore. So I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off and cough. Mitch Trubisky looks scared out there.
He does.
And I tweeted out that I'm being honest. I think he needs a sports psychologist. He does not look like the same guy that we saw during parts of the year last year.
No, he doesn't.
Looks afraid. He's not running. He had the one run today, but other than that, when was the last time you saw him break out of the pocket and run for a first down?
The only other time I could think was last week setting up the missed field goal. That's the only other time.
It is not happening very often, and it was a staple of last year, and it was part of the reason that you had to be honest playing defense against the Bears. Now it's he's going to overthrow it when he throws deep, so you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about keeping a safety back. He's going to telegraph who he's throwing it to, and the Bears' running game is terrible. So why not send everybody? Because he's not going to beat you with his feet.
No,
even though he can.
No, he's not. I mean, he can't read the defense to save his life, and it's a shame because you thought you saw a lot of progression last year, and now it's just gone. It's flat gone. I mean, he always had his issues, but last year you thought you saw improvement. I mean, even look at the last few games. Were they perfect? Were they great? No. I'm talking about the regular season last year. But look, you saw what he did in like Minnesota. He didn't have a very good game against the 49ers, but you remember that game against the Packers when they clinched the division, he had a very acceptable game, like a very solid game. And you're like, okay, if we can get that consistently, then we'll be in good shape. But you're not seeing anything close to that. The throws are not accurate. He's not using his feet. Like you said, he looks scared. He can't read the defense. I don't know. You can just make that better. I don't know.
I mean, and it's, how many times is he not seeing wide open receivers?
It's constant.
I mean, when you can go frame by frame and be like, this is what the play was designed to do. It worked. The receiver's open. Mitch didn't look at them. And I think the biggest indictment was, you had the famous tweets that went out the other week where it went frame by frame. The defensive end is crashing down in the RPO. Mitch should keep the ball and throw to the flat. He's got two receivers open, and he decided to keep the ball and got sacked.
Yeah, and I mean, I know not having a good offensive line doesn't help, but I mean, it goes way beyond that.
Yeah, if your offensive line sucks, you have to do things to mask that. But the problem is so your offensive line is not very good. And we'll get to that in a minute. So you have to do things to mask their deficiencies. But the problem is your quarterback's not good either. So you have to do things to mask his inadequacies. And they're clearly not able to do that.
No.
I mean, this offense is as bad as pretty much any era I've seen in Bears history.
Isn't it sad? Isn't it sad that you can actually go back and look at the early John Fox days just a few years ago and say, wow, Matt Barkley moved the ball better than this current offense?
Yeah, I mean, I can go back to Terry Shea and John Shoop and some terrible eras of Bears offense, and this is right there with them.
It has to be. It has to be. And the thing is, you have a lot of talent on that offense. Allen Robinson is a very special receiver. You have Taylor Gabriel, who's very good. David Montgomery, the kid's good. I mean, the kid's good. You saw what he did today, what he was able to do against the Chargers last week. I think he's finally coming to his own. But, even despite having these talented pieces, you got a lot of holes. And your quarterback isn't playing anywhere near the caliber you thought he was going to play.
Absolutely. And, at what point do you – I mean, you're coming to a crossroad where if you're Matt Nagy, do you worry about alienating or setting back your quarterback or risk losing the locker room?
Well, now when you say the first point you made, are you talking about stunting the growth of Mitch Trubisky? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying is what we've already seen that he's lacking in confidence. If you bench him now, are you risking just completely breaking him down mentally? And is that, where are you at in the crossroads with losing the locker room?
Well, look, I mean,
because clearly the defense is frustrated.
Right. I mean, you're the head coach. You're supposed to be making these decisions. Frankly, Matt Nagy shouldn't be afraid of his own players. If he's afraid of his own players, then he shouldn't be coaching in the NFL.
And, but the object here is to win games. And I get if you think that Mitch Trubisky is the one that's going to lead you in the future, that you probably have to, take the lumps that you're being given developing him. But I think it's a lost cause. I don't think Matt Nagy believes in Mitch Trubisky.
And if your head coach doesn't believe in you, then you're not going to be successful.
I don't think Matt Nagy is coaching to his coaching style and the plays he's calling are for a quarterback that's not Mitch Trubisky. And he's either got to go, you know what? Mitch Trubisky is the quarterback that I have, and I have to coach to the best of his abilities, not the plays that I think are the best plays to run, ideally. Or I'm just going to have to keep living through these frustrations. And this is extraordinarily frustrating, is this offense is embarrassing, flat out embarrassing.
How many yards did they have in the first half?
9?
Yeah,
no,
9.
I think, yeah, something like that. Something ridiculous. Or was it Mitch Trubisky had 9 yards passing, but they had a total of 1 yard?
Well, their net yards through most of the first half were in the negatives.
Yeah, it was unreal. And, the thing is anytime you get a penalty on the offense, you're like, well, crap, it's more than 10 yards. There's no way we're getting a first down here. Right.
Now, the other team, late in the game, if it's 3rd and 13, they'll convert easily.
Oh, we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
But it's absolutely just frustrating. And then, you also had a lot of drops today. You had Allen Robinson, who he's a very, very, very good wide receiver. He needs to practice putting his feet down on the the sidelines.
Yeah, that's been a problem. I mean, we saw today before the first half ended. This is a play I saw on Twitter. I saw the video of it, of where Trubisky finally threw a deeper ball. It was towards the sidelines, and the catch was made, but his heel was out of bounds.
Yeah, he takes big steps back, and a lot of times if you watch, he puts his leg up like a karate kick when he's catching the ball, and when he comes down, he puts it backwards. He's got to work on putting his toes down, dragging those feet, because he makes big time catches. He's got to catch them in bounds.
Right.
There was a lot of drop passes today. I guess we can move on from Mitch, because I think we're both in agreement that he's not the future here, and that sucks because it sets you back to ground zero. And
when you don't have any first round picks.
Right. And it's hard to trade up to get into a top first round pick if you have a first round pick. If you do not, you're giving up a lot of draft picks to potentially get up into the somewhere to draft a good quarterback.
Well, my question for you is, I mean, this is kind of how I feel. I'd be willing. I mean, I know you can't do anything during the season, but in the off season, aren't you considering trading some notable assets to get some picks?
I think you have to.
Hear me out on this one. Hear me out. And this may sound stupid, and tell me if it is stupid. But if there's a guy I would consider trading, if the value is still going to be there, the one name I'd throw out there is Eddie Jackson. And the reason I say that is eventually you're going to have to pay him. And if you want my personal opinion, based on what he said, based on how he kind of feels, I think he walks in free agency.
He has taken a step back this year.
Yes, he has.
He's not been as good. I don't know if I trade him. There's other guys. Man, Roquan Smith has taken a step back, but you don't trade him. They've got a lot of guys
I don't think you could trade Roquan Smith, and I think there was some of the off-field stuff that may have been affecting it. So I wouldn't go there yet.
Do we even know what it was?
No.
It's amazing they were able to keep that as such a secret.
I know. They did a great job. They did a great job with that, honestly.
But it's, anybody that you could trade is because they're having a down year, you're not going to get full value for those players. So it's kind of a tough situation. Do you trade them and get something, but you're not getting full value? And you never get full value when you trade somebody in, an active player. Is you get pennies on the dollar unless it's a quarterback. There's a few players that get, a few positions, a few players that will get big time returns. But most of the time, I mean, the Patriots traded Jamie Collins, who was coming off a Pro Bowl season, and got a 3rd round pick for him. You don't get the value because it's a league where at a premium is paying guys on the rookie scale. So when you have a guy that's getting paid, are you giving up draft picks to get that guy? Because then you are having more players making a lot of money, and it messes with your salary cap. And that's kind of the era we're in. So I don't even know what we would get. Like, I don't even know who we could trade on this team and get very good draft picks. It would just be shedding money for the most part,
right.
Mid-round picks.
Right. Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you kind of had to get creative and say you traded for a number of picks and you tried to use some of those to trade up, again, a lot easier said than done, but I feel like you have to explore a number of options here. It's because you are in a very difficult spot. You have a number of guys who are going to need to get paid coming up. You do not have the draft capital like most other teams do, obviously because of the Khalil Mack move. So the Bears are in hell right now. They are in hell in every aspect. The future with the draft picks and all the issues would not be an issue or on our minds at all if the Bears were winning.
Right.
And Mitch Trubisky was good.
And, I know everybody wants to be like, well, we could have drafted, without trading, we could have drafted Watson or Mahomes.
We know you can't change the past. You can harp on it all day long. I know it's frustrating, but you can't live in the past anymore. You have to look forward.
But I want to make this even worse. We could have taken that number 3 pick, traded it for multiple first round picks, and then traded a second round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I'm not as big on the Garoppolo hype train as others, but that's just me.
I'm not saying he's a world beater, but he's a heck of a lot better than Mitch.
Well, yeah, so is Jay Cutler.
Oh, man. Imagine Jay in this offense. I think he would have done really well.
I think so, too. And look, I'm not trying to really disrespect Jimmy G. I like him as a guy, but I don't know. I feel like he's just – a lot of the stats are just against these bum, low, bottom-of-the-barrel teams.
That's all they play. So – but
if he proves me wrong, great. But I'm just not ready to be on that huge hype train yet.
So yeah, I mean we're set back because when you draft a quarterback high, if you hit with that quarterback, you succeed. If you miss, it sets your franchise back. And
all the Bears know how to do is miss on quarterbacks. That's all they've ever done.
Forever. I mean, Jay Cutler is the best quarterback we've ever had with this franchise. And everybody, I mean, if you go into a bar with 100 people in a Bears fan bar and you say something positive about about Jay Cutler, you are going to have half of that bar ready to fight you and talk about what a bad draft or a bad trade that was.
I mean,
because as being the best quarterback in a storied franchise history, still not that good.
No, I mean, what's really crazy? Jay Cutler was so hated by so many people when he played here. Now I constantly see on social media, I miss Jay Cutler posts, bring back Cutler posts. All of a sudden, he's the most popular Bear ever.
That's how that goes, though.
I know, it's just funny. I never thought I'd actually see it.
It's like the backup quarterback is always the most popular guy in town. Bears fans are. I love you, Bears fans, but you are notorious for changing your opinion like most people change their underwear. It's, I saw tweets today. We should have never traded Jordan Howard. We saw the guy has hands like stone. All right, but he's having a semi-decent season right now with the Eagles. And they have a very good offensive line compared to us, and they're committing to the run, and then you know what, they're gonna have to pay him or let him walk. So I don't really know what you wanted. Do you think that magically he was going to be rushing for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns for us? No, because our offense sucks.
Thanks.
And then, I mean, even worse on our offense is the offensive line is just regressed. And, the 2 tackles have just been turnstiles. Leno absolutely regressed. Massey has regressed. I think you need to flip-flop the guard and the center, and I think you need to have Whitehair go back to center. I think your offensive line was better with him at center, which is I thought that what they did was the right move, and it clearly has not been turned out that way. So, I mean, other than the snapping issues where we definitely saw, I mean, we have seen so few snap, issues between the center and the quarterback exchange. We've seen so few issues this year. It's kind of, lost on our radar, but, last year we had a ton of them. And part of it was the fact that we had a guard playing center, but Cody Whitehair is such a good offensive lineman. He made the offensive line better by being a general there at center, that you live with those bad snaps, I think.
Right. I mean, you look at almost every aspect of the Bears offense and you have problems. I mean, you talk about the drops today, and I feel like drops haven't been a problem in a while overall, but, obviously today they were kind of a problem. One guy wanted to talk about the offense. I really thought he was going to be a more sneakier, better weapon than this. And I was a big fan of his for a while, but I think Tariq Cohen's days here are numbered. I know they don't always utilize him right, and that's not his fault, but you would think he would do more to make some things happen in certain situations, and in the past you've seen it, but right now you're really not seeing it.
You're right. And I just feel like Matt Nagy is not putting the right guys in the right position. And if you look, a lot of times when there's big plays or when you need a big play, they have Tariq Cohen running a route that Allen Robinson should be running, where you've got a guy that's 5'0" trying to go up and get a ball, and you're like, why isn't Allen Robinson going for that one? Your big receiver, he's your number one receiver, and he's big. Why isn't he doing that? Why is your short running back going out on that play?
Right.
You're trying to run Tariq Cohen like a traditional running back.
And he's not.
He's not.
What was it when he was on the goal line today? Like first and goal, and he was lining up behind Mitch Trubisky? Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
In what world is that a good idea?
And you're, if you're going to use him as a running back, you've got to commit to the run. They're so wishy-washy with the run. I mean, even today, they ran a decent number, but it was nowhere near like what they did last week. I mean, let me pull up the stats here. It's you've got to commit to the run. If you're going to commit to the run, let him have his carries. Stats. David Montgomery had 14 rushes. Trubisky had 2. Cohen had 2. You ran the ball with running back 16 times in a game where you lost by 1 score.
Yep.
And where where your quarterback had 125 yards passing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're like, my quarterback had 500 yards passing, you're like, okay, all right, I'll live with that. Your quarterback had 125 yards passing, and you ran 16 times. You are not putting people in the right positions. If you're going to run Tariq Cohen as a running back, you've got to commit to it. You've got to keep him. You've got to use him where you bounce plays to the outside, end arounds, runs on the edge where he can get to that next level, is because once he's in space, he does special things. But when he's not in space, you're wasting his talents and you're not getting him to that second level. You're not. And, use him. The screen game has been terrible. They have not had a good screen, I don't think, all year. And
no, I mean, that's part of the blocking has been bad. I mean, you don't have a good offensive line. You don't have good blocking tight ends. That doesn't help Cohen at all.
Yeah. So you have a head coach / play caller who's not putting guys in the right position. You've got an offensive line that's not blocking. You've got a quarterback that just is he has no confidence, and he's not skilled enough to overcome it. And you've had drop passes and penalties, and it is just adding. And then to add insult to injury is the tight end play in this offense has been abysmal.
Yeah, it's Oof.
The Andy Reid type system thrives on a move tight end. Look what they do in Kansas City. That same system is being run in Philadelphia. What would this offense have looked like without Zach Ertz today? It would have been the two worst offenses ever competing today. Zach Ertz was the difference in why you won this game. And you saw him make the big plays. And what are the Bears tight ends doing? You brought Trey Burton in. Trey Burton has been a ghost. Adam Shaheen comes out there and, he looks terrible. And then the last play of the game, when you're like, okay, the Bears are down by 8 points. There's not a lot of time left. There's like 30-some seconds. But some miracles can happen. Let's just get the offense on the field and see what we can do. And Adam Shaheen can't even fall on a kick. Like, what is this point that he has on this team?
What would you say?
Like,
you
honestly,
do here?
Yeah. Like, honestly, Trey Burton, like, if I'm the Bears this offseason, he's gone. He gone.
Oh, yeah. I think that experiment is over.
I think Trey Burton experiment over. Adam Shaheen experiment over. Cut your losses. I mean, what does Burton make? Like $5 million a year? Pay somebody else. He stinks.
Whew.
Like, between the injuries and, the panic attacks and just when he's healthy, he's just not playing well. You saw little flashes of it in the first few games of last season, and then just disappeared.
So the best and probably only really good tight end the Bears have had the past, 15 years is Greg Olsen.
Who they traded because
Mike Martz is a dildo head.
Yeah. Hey, we've got a tight end who's one of the best tight ends in the league. He doesn't fit my system. Let's get rid of him. So let's trade him. What, they get a third round for him? Third rounder?
Yep.
What a dumb move. I mean, you know what? Mike Martz can say something like that, but if you're Jerry Angelo, you grab Mike Martz by the short ones and you go, no. I'm the general manager. You make this work because he's good.
Yeah. The only other tight end outside him I really liked was Zach Miller. But look, you've had Kellen Davis. You had some flashes of good in Martellus Bennett. But Martellus Bennett is kind of a pain in the ass. And, as talented as he is, kind of an inconsistent player. And then you have this tight end core. It's just that there's been a lot of bad at that position.
If Zach Miller was healthy, I think he would thrive in the system.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But he's done, and so are the Bears.
Yeah, they were officially done when they lost last week.
And as far as the defense goes, stop with all the damn penalties.
Yeah.
Don't rough the passer. Don't hit a guy out of bounds. Don't jump off sides. Don't run into the kicker. It's like, just stop with the penalties, especially on big drives. Like, hey, we just made a huge stop on fourth down. Oh, wait, I ramrodded the quarterback. Oh, now I got 15 yards. And I want to hammer Matt Nagy again. I don't know. I know you were out and about. I don't know if you saw the Zach Ertz touchdown catch.
I did. I saw the video, and I just got to say that's an absolute disgrace on the NFL.
That's a disgrace on the NFL. It's a bigger disgrace why Matt Nagy, not
didn't challenge.
Not just didn't challenge. Why didn't his head turn more red than the flag and have his head explode and blow up onto the field, and that'd be a flag? That's how angry he should have been.
His head should have turned into a dot of hot Tabasco sauce.
If I was Matt Nagy, I would have run out there and karate chopped every one of those officials with the flag. I would have choked out the head official with that flag.
You would have dumped a bunch of boiling hot queso on their crotches.
How in the world do you not challenge that?
Lovey would have challenged, I'm just saying.
And then he would have stared with an open, gaping mouth at the Jumbotron.
Just a quick tangent right here.
Trubisky's our quarterback.
Just a quick tangent. Lovey, that man, is on the verge of bringing the Illini to a bowl game. I just want to say that is awesome.
It only took 19 years.
You know what? I'm sorry, but to be fair to Lovey, when Lovey took that program over, that program had zero talent. Zero. But look now. The Illini are more exciting than the Bears.
They are. That's sad. That's really sad. But, you're seeing Eddie Jackson regress. Roquan Smith just looks lost out there, and I don't know why they're starting him. He should get benched. They should put Kwiatkowski out there because as much as I want to talk crap, he knows where he's supposed to be, and he's going to play hard. Roquan has just not been in the right headspace. I don't know what's going on, but he's not the guy that he was last season. Leonard Floyd is not the guy that we thought he was, and I think it's time to move on from Leonard Floyd.
I've been waiting. We saw flashes, but we never saw the full body of work come together.
I think it's time for that experiment to be over, and which is good. We gave him that 5th year, picked up the 5th year option as quarterback, or his first round draft pick. So we don't have to pay him the big contract.
Yeah.
Let him walk.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't spend money where you don't think it's necessary.
Yeah. Don't chase players with bad money, bad contracts.
Yeah.
Frankly, the Bears, and it's tough to blame the defense for this loss because you went to an opposing team's facility, a team that beat you in the playoffs last year. So they're a playoff caliber team here, and you gave up 22 points. Like that, you should be like, that's a. If you tell me we held Philadelphia to 22 points in Philadelphia, you have to feel confident that you should be able to win that game. And
yeah.
That is not a lot of points. And especially when one of the touchdowns was on a bad call that you should have, it should have been, you should have thrown the flag. They should have thrown they should have called the penalty, bring it back 10 yards, and they were out of field goal range, and it was a long way to get to, for the team on 3rd down. And so you feel like you could probably stop them from scoring at all. And, it's a whole different ball game. So overall, there's a lot of things that the defense just pissed me off. Like towards the end when you needed to come up with a stop and they gave up back to back to back first downs on screen.
One was a
passes
3rd and 13.
That you let a guy, the running back, on a screen pass, nobody touch him until after he got a first down.
Yeah. Yeah, that was bad.
The inability to stop the run. Like, I knew Akeem Hicks was important to this team. I didn't realize he was that important. Like, that he was the cog that made this defense run.
Oh yeah, I mean he's probably one of the 2 most important defenders on that team.
I think he is the most important defender. He stops the run. You don't run on him. He stops the run. And when you stop the run, it makes this defense a much better defense that you force teams into 3rd and longs. Now they're picking up yards on 1st down and 2nd down, even if they're running, and set themselves up for 3rd and medium and 3rd and short. It's a different defense with him out. And the fact that he might be gone for the whole season is, I think you're done.
Yeah.
I mean, right now we're 3-5, and you're like, well, that's not the most terrible record, but you're halfway through the season, and you are 3-5. And I'm pulling up the NFC stats or the standings because you really that's who you're competing against. So you're gonna have, the division winners. So. You got to figure the Saints are going to win that division. Mm-hmm. They're 7-1 right now. So we'll get rid of the division winners because they're going to win. They're going to go to the playoffs no matter what. You're looking at all the rest of the teams that aren't division winners that you're competing against for the wild card spot. So Packers right now are leading that division at 7-2. 49ers are winning that division at 8-0. And the Cowboys are currently winning their division at 4-3. So these are the teams you're competing against for the wild card spots. Eagles, who are 5-4 and have a game on you. The Seahawks, who are 7-2. The Rams, who are 5-3. The Vikings, who are 6-3. The Lions, who are 3-4-1. The Panthers, who are 5-3. Like, you have to leapfrog all of those teams.
Yeah, that's not happening.
I mean, last year we went on a huge run. So, I mean, in theory, we've got 8 games. So we've got, 9 games left. So in theory, we could go 11-5. But it's awfully tough to imagine this team just everything clicking like that and going on a run.
And depending on other teams to fall apart.
I mean, I think if you win 9 in a row, you probably make the playoffs, even with regardless,
sure,
natural attrition.
But I mean, we're talking about winning every single game out.
I mean, the Eagles they're not that good. So you feel like, you could catch them. The Seahawks, that one's tough because they're good and they have a big head start on you. The Rams are 5-3 and you play them. So you could, it's very realistic to catch them. You got to play the Vikings again, and you already beat them once. So if you beat them twice, that's a good tiebreaker there. The Lions, you still have to play twice, so you can, and they're only a half game ahead of you, so you could easily catch them. The Panthers, I don't think are that good, even though they're 2 games up on you. So realistically, if you win out, yeah, you can make this. But while it's mathematically possible, I don't know how you do this as in reality. Is how do you turn this around?
I want to go through the remaining schedule for the Bears. I want you to see what you think is going to be a win or a loss.
Okay.
All right, let's start next week. Lions. What's your answer?
Is home or away?
Home.
Loss.
I agree. I think Matt Stafford is going to absolutely take it to us. At the Rams.
Loss.
I agree. Giants at home.
Win.
I agree. Thanksgiving, Lions.
I think they pull that one out. And I don't know why. I just feel like they have some sort of... I think it's more... I think the Lions fall apart on national TV.
Okay, that's fair.
It's
Cowboy...
going to be something fluky like, a pick six.
Yeah. Well, we just need to start Chase Daniel in that game. Cowboys at home.
All like the logic and reason of me is like that's an absolute loss, especially because they're just going to shove Ezekiel Elliott down our throats and we won't be able to stop him. But I just recent memory, every time I can think of a big game against the Cowboys where we should have gotten run out of the stadium, we've won.
I'm going to pick them to win that game too, actually.
So we both can't pick it, so I'll go loss.
Well, I'll go win. All right, let's just say loss together. Packers at Lambeau.
Yes,
that's a loss. Chiefs at home. That's a loss.
Loss because, especially since Mahomes will be back.
Vikings on the road.
Win.
You think they're going to win that one?
Yeah. The Bears just stymie that team.
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50 on that one. The way I see
it's a lot tougher than the last time, but I think they win.
Okay, that's fair. All right, the way I look at it right now, based on my predictions, I predict I'm looking at a 5-11 season right now, and I don't want that to be reality, but the only gimme game I really think is the Giants at home. And I
don't even know if that's a gimme game.
Yeah.
If Saquon Barkley gets going, this could be a long game.
Yeah. If you had Akeem Hicks, that's a whole different story, but they don't. Yeah. I honestly, I think what could easily happen is they're going to lose some really bad games down that stretch, but they're going to pull out a big win like you wouldn't expect. Honestly, probably. I'll be honest. This makes no sense to me. It shouldn't make any sense on paper, but I could totally see the Bears beating the Chiefs at home. I know it sounds crazy and impossible, and I'm really part of me is trying to say, you idiot, don't even say that. But I feel like that's going to be the equivalent of 2009 when the Bears beat the Vikings. Do you remember that game in overtime?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's going to be like that.
So, realistically, not realistically, we're predicting 4-5 in these next 9 games? Something around there?
Around there. So
that puts them on the season at, 7-9.
Good. The 2009 Bears.
It's not just, this team is done. They're done.
Mm-hmm.
And, unless somehow some sort of magic happens and they figure it out. But, they've already done the coach's, last ditch effort of rallying them behind the Washington Nationals. You've got the players only meeting, and none of it's worked.
No, because that stuff is bullcrap.
Yep. And it's a different story if you were able to, at the last second, pull out that Raiders win.
Mm-hmm.
And last week, if you made the kick
mm-hmm.
and you won,
mm-hmm.
and this week they didn't call that penalty, or if they called that penalty and you were able to pull this one out, suddenly you're even though you are terrible, you would be these 3 wins, so two.
You could have 5 or 6 wins now.
You would be 6-2.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty darn good record. And that one, you're like, all right, I feel like they can make the playoffs, even if they don't. You have a longer leeway to figure out how to fix your offense. Now it's you know what? You're looking at miracles at this point.
I said the Chiefs were kind of my shocker pick for a win. Do you have a shocker pick? These last few games? And if you do, why?
I say Rams.
I could see them beating the Rams.
I mean, the Rams are a much better team. I just don't think they beat the Chiefs. I just don't see that happening unless, even with a fluke thing like, Mahomes gets injured again. Their backup quarterback played well.
Here's my only thought. Here's my only thought on that. Here's why I think there's a potential there. I feel like the Bears will be angry. That's not even the full part of it. I know Kansas City is not in a tropical paradise by any means, and it does get cold there, but I think if it's a really bitter cold night at Soldier Field, then you may see Pat Mahomes with a few problems.
Possibly. I don't know.
Or I'm wrong and they lose 48-10. Who knows?
Yeah, this team is done. A buddy of mine is a diehard Cowboys fan, and so clearly he was rooting for the Bears today. And he's like, I think the Bears are going to pull this out. And I was like, listen, as a Cowboys fan, I can understand why you think this because your team could probably pull this out. I am a longtime Bears fan, and this game is over. There's 0% chance they win. And I was like, I even texted him. I was like, this game is going to end on a really boneheaded play where you just, it's not even like, oh man, we came down and marched down the field and, the last pass of the game as time ran out and it just went off the guy's fingertips and could have scored and won the game. It won't be something like that. It'll be a boneheaded play. And he goes, no, I don't think so. I think you got this. And then he goes, man, you were right. And I was like, I know. I know I'm right. Like it ended on a boneheaded, or a kick return where Shaheen can't even field it.
Yeah, woof. You knew it was going to end in some heartbreak way.
My assumption was that they would get down to a third down or fourth. It'd either be like a third down and when they're going for it and Trubisky throws an interception, or it's a fourth down and they come up a yard short. I figured that would be the ender, but no, much more Bears worthy with Shaheen bobbling it and kicking it right to the other team.
Yep.
Should we talk about the other manure teams?
Sure. Unfortunately, there's more than one.
They're all manure. So, my buddy Gary, who's been on the show, he's a diehard White Sox fan, and we've both as Cubs fans have talked glowingly about things we've seen in the rebuild and the talent that they have in the White Sox farm system and then that they've brought up. And he's made it a point, and I know we've discussed it, that the White Sox are going to blow this, and that the only reason he feels that they didn't bring up Luis Robert this year is because they want the extra year of team control, so when they trade him, they can get more value. And he's already dead set that all these players are just going to be traded away for another rebuild. And honestly, it's hard to argue because you're like, okay, you already have it coming out with how cheap Reinsdorf is. And then you're like, well, no. Maybe once we see free agency open, that this team's going to open their pocketbook and they're going to bolster the young talent they have and make a run at it. So what is the first move they do in the offseason? They dump salary to the Rangers. Like, you already have $15 million in salary. Like, what more salary dump do you need? So they dump more salary. Now they're dumping international slots in the international pool for cash. You know, and it's now that so you have top line pitchers that are available, and you have all the money in the world that you can throw at them. Like, you could literally spend, $160 million just for next season, not total, $160 million in salary just for next season, and you're within your baseball budget still. That's what you could do. And you've got Garrett Cole, who's out there, who could come in and just absolutely change the dynamic of this team. Now you have the World Series MVP opt out of his contract. So you've got another guy that could come in and just be the front line guy with, all the other young talent you have. You're like, man, that's the way to go. You've got top tier players, marquee names that are going to be free agents. And what do? You're dumping salary already. Like, it's frustrating, and they're going to end up with the second rate free agents. My buddy Gary's like, I bet they re-sign Ivan Nova.
Man, I am really way more optimistic in the White Sox than anyone else. I think they're going to surprise and they're going to land one of those big guys.
I mean, what's the biggest contract they've ever given as a franchise?
It's Jose Abreu.
And how much was that contract?
$60 million, I think, something around there.
So basically, the biggest contract they've ever given was $60-some million. When you have guys that are making 30 in a year.
Right, but I think they realize now they have to spend money, and especially since that Reinsdorf story came out, I think they're going to be spending the money. I really do. I think one of those big guys is going to surprise people and come on the White Sox. Maybe I'm delusional. I'm not even a Sox fan. Maybe I'm crazy, but I just have that feeling that they're going to kill that. I mean, it's not really a narrative because it's been true, but they're going to kill that whole thing this year. Again, maybe I'm completely out of my mind, but that's just kind of how I feel, strangely.
Yeah, I mean, as much
how
as
can you justify to your fans? How can you justify to your fans that you don't spend any money with the money you have available? And the fact that you've been in this rebuild for 3 years, how can you twist that? How can you possibly justify that to your fans?
You've been in a rebuild for more than 3 years. This rebuild has been 3 years. But
true.
Your last time you made a run at it was you signed Adam Dunn, Adam LaRoche, Melky Cabrera. That was your big run. When Jake LaRoche, Adam LaRoche's kid was your inspiration and your locker room leader.
Hey, he helped Adam Eaton win
Drake LaRoche.
Yeah, Drake LaRoche.
That's where you were. That was your big run. And so while I really love, and I'm not putting this on Rick Hahn because he's got higher ups that have to okay things.
Right.
I think everything Rick Hahn has done has been just absolutely phenomenal, and he's done a great job. But my buddy Gary, I didn't want to buy it, but he's really sold me on this idea that I don't think the White Sox are. I think they're more than happy to keep payroll low and keep selling the hope of the future and just win enough games to keep people coming. Because you know what? He brought up a point. If the White Sox valued the product that they were putting on the field, how come it's more expensive to go to a Chicago Dogs game in Rosemont than it is to go to a White Sox game?
I can't really say anything about that. I really can't.
I mean, if you're the White Sox organization and you're the only thing you can tell fans, you're like, well, I mean, tickets, we're just basically giving them away. I mean, on Sundays, they're like, we're giving a free T-shirt along with when you buy a $10 ticket. Like, that's the things they're doing. And they're like, well, we think we could make the playoffs. My buddy Gary was a 17-year season ticket holder, and he had an agent reach out to him and selling him that they think they can make a big playoff run. And
for this coming season?
Yeah, I'm like, that's what you're selling them is the hope. You're like, well, we've got all these young players, but if you're not going to spend money on bolstering your clear, I mean, you had these talents last year, and there's some guys you didn't bring up for whatever reason, and you still had gaps because you had how many? They lose 90 games this year,
something like that. I didn't really pay attention to their record this year.
Yeah, it's clearly you still have holes. And you've got all the money in the world to fill those holes, and guys that are on free agents that are able to, to fit those holes. And if you don't go out there and outspend everybody, because you have to outspend them.
Of course.
You have to outspend them.
Well, I think if you do see a potential problem there, who else is going to be going after these guys? I mean, some of the big market teams. I'll tell you right now, just going to the other side of town real quick, the Cubs are not going to spend crazy money this offseason. They're not. But you have the Yankees. If I'm a betting man right now, or just right now based early this offseason, I could totally see Garrett Cole ending up in Yankee pinstripes. And
the Yankee fans are already talking about getting two marquee pitchers.
Okay, that's a little ridiculous, but I could see them getting one of the two, Strasburg or Cole. I see it happening.
Oh, Yankee fans they've already penciled in both.
Ish. I mean, you get just one of them, and wow. Early prediction time. Anthony Rendon is another big name. Madison Bumgarner is another big name. Yasiel Puig. We've talked about, I think the Sox will get a Yasiel Puig type of guy. They may even get a Nick Castellanos type guy. But I think if we're talking Cole, your biggest free agents right now, Cole, Rendon, Strasburg. I think the Sox, if they really want to make a big step forward, need to land one of those guys.
So, I mean, I think it starts with, I think you re-sign Jose Abreu. I think he's probably your best option playing first base.
He's still productive.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at the other names at first base. Howie Kendrick is available, but he's 36.
Yeah, I don't think that's the right move for the White Sox. I'd rather the Cubs do something like that, but not the White Sox. They're not going to do that.
Eric Thames, but I think Jose Abreu is a better option.
Oh, yeah.
Mitch Moreland, Neil Walker, Justin Smoke, Logan Forsythe, Ryan Zimmerman. Those are the other names out there.
Neil Walker would be such a pre-rebuild Kenny Williams move.
I think Jose Abreu is your best option.
I think so too.
And plus, he already wants to come back. It's like an easy peasy, hand him a contract.
And they darn well know they could get him for fairly cheap.
Is second base. I think I think you're probably going to bring up Nick Madrigal, but you'd probably want a veteran there to maybe split some time with him or be able to be a utility guy.
Sure.
I mean, I don't think Starlin Castro is a terrible option. I think you can get him cheap, and I don't think he has a lot of options starting elsewhere. He's only 30.
Got to keep that pattern of former Cubs.
Well, he can play multiple positions. So unless you want to go with Gordon Beckham.
Oh, reunite. If that happens, I'm coming out of retirement. That's what Hawk would say.
But, obviously Nick Madrigal's your go-to guy. You're set at short and third. Catcher, I mean, you could probably improve, but other than Yasmani Grandal, like, who else?
See, that's a guy I think the White Sox are going to go after hard on.
I think they should. I think it makes sense. Shortstops, third base, you're good. I think you need a right fielder. So there's Nick Castellanos, so I think would be a good option for them.
I disagree because I want him on the Cubs.
Well, I'm just saying for them it would be a good option.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yasiel Puig is there. But you know who's out there at right field that's going to be available in this offseason? I'm going to throw two names out there that are totally my buddy Gary's head would explode. Avisail Garcia.
Avi, reunite.
Melky Cabrera.
Milkman, reunite.
Or I can even throw John Jay out there.
Well, if they want to try to woo Manny Machado to leave San Diego, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, like who?
I could totally see them trying to bring back Avi Garcia as like depth. I could totally see it. I'm not saying it'd be a good idea, but I'm just saying I could see it.
So I mean, like those Yasiel Puig and Nick Castellanos are your two best options. DH. Did JD Martinez opt out of his contract?
Not yet.
He probably will. He's 32. He's got 3 years left at $62 million. He could probably get more than that. I mean, that's an option there. Hunter Pence actually had a nice season.
Yeah, but do you really want to rely on an older Hunter Pence?
True, but I mean, you got nothing from your designated hitter spot this season.
Well, I mean, do you think that they're gonna with DH? You think they're gonna slowly move Eloy Jimenez to that spot?
Maybe, but who's gonna play left?
You got to get someone.
You got to get somebody. So I don't know. But then here's where you go with the pitchers. Is Garrett Cole had an almost 8 WAR this year and is still in his 20s. You throw the Brinks truck at him. Strasburg, when he's healthy, is a dominant pitcher, but his health concerns scare me. If I'm being honest with you.
Honestly, if you want my opinion, I think my early prediction right now is the fact that I think Strasburg is going to just go back on a bigger deal with the Nationals.
Probably.
I think that's what's going to happen.
I mean, it's hard to think otherwise. You feel like Rendon and Strasburg are going to go back.
Yeah, I mean, the Nationals are going to do everything they can, and I feel like after that World Series run, I know sometimes it works the opposite in sports, but I feel like the Nationals, it would be in their best interest, and I think they may agree to open up the pocketbook and keep that group together as best they could.
Yeah, so then pitchers. Yeah, so then we got Strasburg, Cole, Ryu, Wheeler, Odorizzi, Bumgarner, Homer Bailey, Michael Pineda, Kyle Gibson, Cole Hamels, Adam Wainwright, Tanner Roark, Wade Miley, Brett Anderson, Ivan Nova, Andrew Kashner, Martin Perez, Jason Vargas, Rick Porcello, Julio Teheran, Gio Gonzalez, Rich Hill.
I could totally see Gio Gonzalez going to the White Sox.
Chris Archer, Dallas Keuchel, Clay Buchholz, Julius Chassin, King Felix, Tyson Ross, Jeremy Hellickson, Michael Wacha, Alex Wood, Shelby Miller. Man, remember when Cubs wanted Shelby Miller?
Oh, yes. Remember the rumor that they traded Javi for him?
Yeah.
Like Gordo?
Clayton Richard, Drew Smiley, Wade LeBlanc, Matt Harvey. I was joking with Gary that Matt Harvey would be the ultimate White Sox signing as a pitcher.
Oh, I know.
He's in his 30s, had a negative WAR last year. Yeah, so there's guys to make this roster better, and you've got all the money in the world to sign all of them. It's what are you going to do? I mean, you feel like Eloy is a lock either at your left field or DH. Luis Robert should be your center fielder. So you gotta fill that hole in right field. You got to figure out what you're doing at second base, whether you bring Madrigal up or you have a spot filler. Resign your first baseman, go after Yasmani Grandal, and then add one top line pitcher and then one solid pitcher, and go from there. Grab Garrett Cole, and then bring in a guy. Man, I don't even know who this list, but I think a coup for the White Sox would be bringing in Garrett Cole and Madison Bumgarner. That'd be
if they do that,
coup.
then that changes the whole game.
Because
that makes legitimate contenders.
Yeah, like let me see.
With filling some other spots too, but
White Sox rotation. Let's see. I'm looking at their. Because that would make Carlos Rodon a middle of the order, bottom of the order type guy. Let's see. So that would means if you had those two guys, obviously Garrett Cole's your number one, Madison Bumgarner's number two, probably number three. Lucas Giolito is probably your number two. Madison Bumgarner is your three. So that means between 4 and 5, you have Reynaldo Lopez, Dylan Cease, Michael Kopech, and Carlos Rodon competing for those two spots.
Yeah, that'd be pretty nice.
I mean, you could probably go to a 6-man rotation easily, but I don't know. It's the White Sox. The White Sox have their window that's just opening up, and they need to jump in both feet and take advantage of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, on the other side of town, I don't know what the hell the Cubs do here. I mean, they picked up.
They're going to make trades. They're going to make moves we don't expect. It's going to be very creative this offseason.
Well, I mean, who do they trade?
I think anyone is on the table except for Rizzo and Baez, frankly.
I mean, they just picked up Rizzo's option, so Rizzo's back.
He's not going anywhere.
No, they picked up Jose Quintana.
Who might go somewhere?
Possible, but there was 0% chance they weren't going to pick up that option.
No, of course not.
It was too team friendly. Even if you're not happy with what you get for the money, based on what pitchers are getting, he's well worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Your 40-man roster: Brad Wick, Danny Hultzen, Craig Kimbrell, Lester, Dylan Maples, Alec Mills, James Norwood. I mean, Jose Quintana. What's your rotation?
Well, you know for a fact the three guys you're going to pencil in are Hendricks, Darvish, Lester. Now, Lester is probably going to be like your 5-starter this year.
He's got.
That's just his now.
Is you probably Darvish is probably your number one.
I'd probably put Hendricks at number one, but
I mean, you could, but
you can make an argument for either. Frankly,
that's your 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So, Quintana is there if you want him. I don't know what you get for him in a trade.
I don't think you'd get much at this point, but you might get something.
Is the something worth more than, like, how do you replace him in the rotation?
Well, that's the thing. If they can figure out to get some better people in here, then maybe it is worth it. But you're going to have to figure that out first.
So, like, then let's just say he's here. He's your number 3, and Lester's your 4. Who's your 5?
Well, I mean, you're gonna have to bring somebody in. That's the whole thing.
I don't know who you bring in with the, your salary restrictions, because there's gonna be a lot of guys making a lot of money unless you're gonna try do one of those second tier starting pitcher guys. Wait till the big monies come out and then try to grab somebody that didn't go in the first wave.
I mean, the guy I really like, I wrote about it for Cubby's career, but I think he's going to command a decent amount of money. Is Zach Wheeler from the Mets.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he would be a solid addition, but I just think he's going to command a lot of money.
Well, and here's the other thing, too. I was saying this on Climbing the Ivy. If they're still worried a lot about luxury tax, then I think you're going to see some guys traded away to not just to shake things up, but just to dump some salary.
What salary, though, are you really going to dump? You can't. I mean, Darvish, you need him.
Right.
I mean, you could get something for him. It just you need him.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Jason Hayward, you can't dump.
Well, that's the one thing. If you could find someone to take a decent amount of salary, I don't know how easy it is you're going to be able to do that. But if they were able to find someone to eat enough salary where the Cubs thought it was worth it, I like Jason Hayward, but I would understand it. I just don't know if it's going to happen.
I would totally understand it. I just don't see it happening. Is who's willing to pick up that much of the salary to make it, worthwhile?
Right.
If anybody that's willing to take him, they know that the Cubs are over a barrel, and so if you take him, you're probably gonna only pick up $8 million of the salary, so your Cubs are paying like 12.
Right.
So is that worth it? It's what are you getting in return? And the more you get in return, clearly the less of the salary they're picking up. So, Hayward, so for 2020 the 2020 season, Hayward's at $21 million. Lester's at $20 million. Darvish is at 22. Kyle Hendricks is at 12. Craig Kimbrell's at 16. I don't know how you dump that salary.
Well, you can't. You need him.
But even if you decide, I mean, you couldn't dump that salary, I don't think.
No.
Tyler Chatwood, maybe you can move away, but at 13, he's got 1 year left. Let's see. David Bodie's making $1 million.
Yeah.
Man. Brian will probably get like 15 in arbitration. Javi Baez will probably get like 7 or 8 in arbitration. We can do. Can you dump Descalso? That'd be nice.
How much is he making?
2.5.
Send him to the Royals for a pack of gum.
Russell is arbitration eligible, but I can't imagine you're going to pick that up.
No, he's gone.
He's got to be gone.
He's gone.
Schwarber's eligible for arbitration. I mean, maybe you could move him, but you're not going to get the value, I don't think.
No, and that's one thing. A lot of people want to trade him for value. I think the value for Schwarber comes with him being on the team. I don't think you're going to get the return that you desire in a trade.
I fully agree. Let's see. Wilson Contreras is arbitration eligible, so I don't know what he'll get, but he's the guy I think you have the best value for trading.
I've kind of been on the trade him, sign Grandal train, but the problem is that Grandal is probably going to cost you a pretty penny.
Oh, he's going to cost you huge. But I think you can live with Victor Caratini.
I know, but Contreras is such a good bat, though.
He is.
That gives you 20-plus homers.
He is, but you need to do something because you stunk this year.
Yeah, you do. You do. And, I mean, he's got a lot of value.
Yep. Is a catcher that can hit like him. You've got a lot of value, and I think you... And
he's played outfield.
Yeah, so I think he's played first base, he's played outfield. Like, he's got value. I think if you're going to shake it up, I think that's the easiest thing to shake up. Let's see. Almora. Why bring back? I mean, he's no money anyway, but so we already talked about the big money. We've already, I don't know how you get rid of any of those guys and get any sort of value.
Right. It's going to be a tough offseason. I mean, they're really going to have to get creative here.
Really creative, and I think Ian Happ and Mark Zagunis and Wilson Contreras all get traded.
I could definitely see Ian Happ being involved in a trade.
So, I mean, unless they want to open up that pocketbook and pay the luxury tax, I just don't know how. I don't even know how you get creative, unless you're just like, you know what, we're gonna go all in and trade Chris Bryant, which I still don't think. I don't know how you get. Chris Bryant is a great trade piece if you're going to rebuild.
Mm-hmm. We're retooling.
I don't, but
That's the difference.
I don't know how you retool with trading him, with what they need to do. I don't know how you get the value there. The value comes from you are going to be getting a massive amount of young prospects.
Yeah.
And that's where the value comes. So, that's why the White Sox rebuild was so jump-started, because you were able to trade 2 frontline pitchers with really team-friendly deals and bring in just massive hauls. That's where the value came in. Chris Bryant is, you don't have, depending on how this this grievance hearing goes, If he wins his grievance, you've got this year as his last year as team control.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you. I think as time is going on, I think Chris Bryant is going to walk.
Agreed. And I don't necessarily, it's a tough one. He's a very, very, very good player. It's very tough to replace those numbers. But I also don't feel like, what was his WAR this year?
4 something, I think. I have to go back and look.
It's good. It's just not great.
My biggest concern about Bryant's future, and I think this has affected his play because, I think he is still that MVP caliber player, but he's had so many nagging injuries, you could definitely see it taking a toll at times.
Agreed. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm really curious of what they're going to do, and being that they're starting their own network next year on the Marquee Network, they got to do something. They really have to do something, and new manager who I'm happy with. I really am. I think he's gonna light people's asses on fire when they need it.
You know what? I think he's going to be harder on players than people think. People think he's this fun, goofy grandpa. I think he's going to be much harder than Madden at times.
Oh, way harder than Madden. I think when I wanted him, several months ago, I was talking on the show and I was saying that, this might be a Homer meatball take, but I'm like, I think they should let go of Joe and bring in Rossi. And I was like, I think he's like the older brother where, you can laugh and joke around with him, but he will snatch you up and put you in your place in a heartbeat. And I think that's what David Ross is he's fine. He'll laugh and joke with you, go out to dinner with you, he'll have a drink with you. But the minute you mess up, he's gonna be on your ass like white on rice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's what they need is Joe wasn't that guy. And Joe, to be honest with you, is pissing me off with his sour grapes. I didn't want to be back with the Cubs anyway. Oh yeah, shut up, Joe. We've got so many quotes and clips and your agent there with the hard sell to the media about, of course you wanted to be back. You're just mad now that you got let go, or, that they told you they weren't bringing you back. Then now you're just, giving sour grapes.
I think towards the end he was ready to move on too, those last several weeks. I really do. But, it is what it is.
He probably was very frustrated, but if they would have offered him a contract, he would not have left.
Probably not. The one thing I will say about Joe is when you heard his press conference with the Angels, you saw the same Joe Madden as you saw when he came here. And what that told me was he's not going to change who he is. And it's pretty clear that he ran his course here and that if he was going to come back, he was still going to be the same guy. And he was burned out here. The Joe Madden candle burned out, and he's not going to change who he is. He's going to continue to be Joe Madden. And as the team evolved, he didn't evolve, and that was an issue. That's what that told me. It just, to me, it confirmed more that it was time to move on, is what I'm trying to say.
It's possible. But I want to wrap this up by talking a little Blackhawks. This team is a tough team to watch.
It is. For a team that has so much talent on it.
And, we talked before the season started how, we both heard the interview before the game in Prague, where Seabrook was talking. He was shocked that people insinuated that maybe he was a step slower or, wasn't that good. That he was absolutely shocked, like he couldn't believe somebody would say something like that, and my mind was blown the fact that he didn't realize where he's at in his career. And it's even more shocking that when he's a healthy scratch several games in a row, that he can't explain why, and it's a shock to him. How in the world do you not have, it's one thing to have, lack a little bit of self-awareness, but to have that level of lack of awareness, how does that happen?
Well, we've seen 2 healthy scratches, and there's clearly some hard feelings going on, I think.
I think so, too. And you know what? Tough. You either play better or you don't play. I don't care what money you're making or what you've done anymore. This is sports. It's what have you done for me lately? And guess what? We're not even halfway done with his contract.
Don't even remind me.
We're living in the reminder. This is going to get worse before it gets better.
Oh boy, this is gonna get a lot worse before it gets better.
Yeah, I need what would Doug Buffone say about this?
What would Doug Buffone say? Oh. God damn it! I don't know what they're gonna do with this guy, but he's gotta be quicker!
It's true. Like, he needs to be better. What did he do? You're not going to find the fountain of youth, but there are things you can do to improve your quickness and improve your speed somewhat. And he was shocked that somebody would call his speed and quickness out. And guess what? Is every single person that watches hockey goes, man, Brent Seabrook is old and slow and skates with concrete feet.
Concrete feet!
Everybody in the world says that except for Brent Seabrook, who is absolutely shocked that he didn't know anybody thought that. Like, don't you watch film? Doesn't somebody go, hey, let me point this out to you? Like, what do you think happens? Like, it's mind-boggling to me. And you're not seeing improvement on guys. You're just seeing bad play. You saw Corey Crawford take one off the face in the last game. And they pulled him out because, Lord knows what's happening in that poor man's brain right now. This is a bad team.
There's no chemistry whatsoever. They're getting they can't generate enough shots. They can't generate any sort of pressure. It seems like every game they're spending a majority in their own zone. They're not moving the puck. They look like they're a step behind every single moment of the game. Their passing is like molasses, where the process is so slow and readable. Defenses just come and block it or knock it off and take the puck away. You watch the Hawks pass, and it's like a rookie on NHL 18. Like, their process is shaky, it's slow, it's readable, and defenses just pick it right off.
Yeah, and
there's no chemistry whatsoever.
And then after last season, we thought Eric Gustafsson was, a fairly bright spot. He had 17 goals and 60 points, and you're like, okay. And then this year, he was a healthy scratch yesterday.
Yeah. Boakfist and Doc are hopefully going to develop in a positive direction. But even if they do, it's still just not a complete team. You know what really gets me? This is what really gets me. Where the hell is Patrick Kane? He has been invisible this year.
Do you consider moving him?
I mean, I get scorned a lot by people when I say this, but I think there has to come a time where you're willing to make major moves like that to move forward. Because you know what? If you keep going as you're going, you're just going to be stuck in purgatory.
Yep. I mean, trade guys is like do the Patriot way. Trade a guy a year earlier than a year late.
I mean, it's easier said than done. There's a lot of no movement clauses, no trade clauses and whatnot, but you got to try to do something here. Really have to.
Absolutely.
You can't just sit here.
And I just want to read this quote from Brent Seabrook.
Okay.
I don't think I need rest. I think I feel great. I'm 34. You guys seem to want to write articles about my age and my speed. I feel like I still got a lot to offer in this league and still be a good player for somebody.
Yeah.
Is that or is that not the most the quote with the least self-awareness you've heard in a long time?
Yeah, especially bringing up speed.
I
mean, look, the guy was a great player for many years, but it's just clearly not there anymore.
I mean, the only quotes that I can think of that are less self-aware would be like Rudy Giuliani when he butt dials a reporter and gets caught on camera saying, or calling a reporter saying things with a butt dial. Like that's like another level. But like this is terrible. Like how in the world do you not realize that you are old and slow? 34 is not old in real life, but 34 is old in professional sports.
Especially when you have played so much extra hockey over the years.
Right. And it's, he's got a no-waive clause in his contract, but guess what? Maybe he waives it, and you could do something with it.
Yeah.
There's got to be some idiot out there that's willing to take it. Or, wasn't it Cristobal Huet that we sent to Europe to play in another league at one point lent him, that where we still paid his contract, but he was off the books?
And wasn't that right after the Cup year?
Yeah, that was Cristobal Huet, right?
I think. Because I know he was playing in France soon after.
Yeah,
he was playing in Europe.
Couldn't we do that with Seabrook and let him play somewhere else? And then, all right, for the next 4 years, we're going to pay him $6.875 million a year. But dang it, we're going to get that $6.875 million off the books, and we could sign somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, sure, you've got a lot to offer in the KHL. Hope you brush up on your Russian.
Maybe you could play with Jaromir Jagr somewhere.
Oh my God, there'd be a lot of old Manning around there.
Oh yeah, and I mean, it sucks that we have to talk about Brett Seabrook, a guy who was absolutely key to cup runs, those 3 cup runs, like this. But unfortunately, it just comes to a time where, when you get old, you get old. Father Time is undefeated.
Yep, never lost. I mean, Tom Brady's putting up a good fight, but Father Time is never lost.
No.
It might take him longer than it should sometimes, but he wins every time.
I mean, like Gordie Howe is the closest to where Father Time is going to be defeated, but he still won.
I mean, yeah, Jaromir Jagr still putting up a good fight.
Yeah, even not in the NHL anymore. He's still fighting the fight.
I mean, isn't he a team captain in the KHL?
He might be. It wouldn't surprise
me. And the KHL's a good league.
They drink vodka. The ice is vodka instead of water.
Yeah, so let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Seabrook, at the end of this season, will be halfway through his 8-year contract.
Yee. That's all I gotta say. Yee.
And I mean, they front loaded it as far as his salary, but it's the NHL, so they do an average value.
Right.
So, his cap hit is 6.875, but 16-17 he made 9. He made 9 the first 3 years. This year it's 7.5. Next year 5, then 6, then 5, then 4.5. So so they're paying him. They've already paid most of the contract. It's now they're paying the piper as far as the salary cap hits. And I don't know enough about the cap. If he were to up and retire, doesn't it still hit the count against the cap?
There's a bunch of rules. Well, because they had to sell Hosa's contract, remember, when he retired? I wonder if Hockey Reference still has him as I think he will. I'm just going to look it up for the hell of it. Let's see, Marian Hossa. Okay, here we go. Marian Hossa. Under contract for the Arizona Coyotes of the National Hockey League. So he's still technically under contract with them, even though he's not playing there.
Trying to see what happens in the yeah, I think they get a big cap hit.
Right.
And the usually what they do is they can go on a long-term IR like Chris Pronger, and it helps the team out. But
well, right, because when Hossa went on IR, that didn't count against the cap.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see. They're looking at Shea Weber here. So Shea Weber signed a 14-year deal in the 2012-2013 season with an almost $8 million a year cap hit. And both Nashville and Montreal have paid him well beyond what his cap hit would suggest. If Weber was to retire today, they would both be penalized. Nashville's total penalty would be $24.5 million, while Montreal's is fluid. However, next season marks a drop for Weber below his cap number for the remaining 8 years of his contract. Let's see. If Weber retires, here's what Montreal's portion of the penalty would be. If he retires before the 2021 season, Montreal has a $4.1 million penalty. If he retires before the 21-22 season, they give him 4.91. If he retires before the 25-26 season, they have $24.57 million cap hit, or a penalty. So they would have to put him on long-term injured reserve to finish his career, to avoid the penalty. It's crazy. I get it, because teams would just keep signing guys to these long-term contracts with huge money to to get, and then to lower the average value. but pay the guys a lot of money during their career, so it would incentivize them, teams to stop doing that or, penalize them for it. But man, it sucks if you do sign a guy and he just stinks and decides to retire. You're SOL.
Right.
Brent Seabrook.
Sigh.
So right now, to sum this all up, Chicago sports are great if you like puke.
Right on. We'll have to talk about the Bulls soon, because, that's pretty bad too, but I'm in no energy right now to talk about them.
Yeah, me either. To be honest, I've only watched bits and pieces of games, but I did catch the game that they blew the other night. That was...
Which one, the Knicks or the
Knicks?
Awful.
I watched the end of that game, and I was like, at one point, I'm like, they're going to lose this game. And boy, did they. So this team is puke.
They're good if you like puke.
So, yeah, I guess that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swirsky Sports Talk Chicago. This uplifting, heartwarming episode. Make sure you follow us on social media at ShyFanPat1, at Swirsky Sports, Facebook.com/Swirsky Sports, SwirskySports.com. Hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether that's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn app, Google Play. I think we're on Spotify. I'd have to double check. But yeah, anywhere you listen to podcasts, hit subscribe. And thank you guys so much for listening. Please share this podcast with people in your life that like Chicago sports, because that's how we grow the show. And thank you guys for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her, you can have her, she's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like... Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears!
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down